Hello, welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. This is Kirsten. I am your hostess, and I am here with another friend today, which I'm so excited about. This is going to be our first Sobriety Bestie podcast interview. We have Robert here, who I actually know from a clubhouse. I got sober right around the time that he started going to that clubhouse. So we have some history together in the rooms, and we're both out now. And I'm so happy to have you here to share a little bit about what it's been like to leave AA. I'm super curious to hear your story.
It's nice to be here. Went to the same clubhouse, basically. It was a long road for me. I moved out to San Francisco in 2009 and started going to meetings at that clubhouse. Well, actually, I started going to meetings back east in 1985. My uncle came up from Rhode Island and took me to my first meeting, and I was a mess. I definitely needed the program and definitely needed help. But I never opened up. I couldn't open up until I arrived in San Francisco. I had too many fears and too much stuff going on around me that I didn't know how to deal with. People would call it disease, and I would always bring up it's not a disease, and they would switch it to it's disease, and I'd be like, come on, quit playing the games. And so I just never agreed with the disease model. The truth is, it's a model. It's not an actual disease. The model is used to understand the habits, the behavior. So in my opinion, it's all behavioral. When I got to San Francisco, I felt good about opening up and letting it all out. I had some regrets because I could see the gossip going on in the meetings. I could see that people were violating my trust issues. If I shared with my sponsor and my sponsor would share stuff with other people, and they would come up and introduce themselves knowing stuff about me. And I'd be like, wait a minute, I didn't tell you that. So I knew it was coming from the sponsor. I ended up dropping that sponsor, but remained friends with him until he passed away not too long ago. But I never really agreed with any of the ideology, and I kind of resented that it was being pushed on me. So I would go to meetings and hear what people were saying and then go home and research everything.
Wow, I love
And
that. Good for
and that,
you.
but then I would go back to the meetings and try to explain it, and give them books to read, and
Good luck.
yeah. Then there was the outside literature thing. I felt like nobody was hearing anything I was saying, and
Yeah,
even though I thought I was right on the money with all of it,
you probably
but
were.
I did a lot of reading on psychology. People would accuse me, you're not a doctor and all that stuff. I realize I'm not a doctor, but I've done a lot of reading, and I have a really good understanding of psychology. I had some mental illness in my family, so I've been reading psychology since I was a teenager. And I've taken
Mhm.
courses at Northeastern and Wentworth and all these different places. I've gone to a lot of different therapists too. And the one therapist I went to here in San Francisco, he said he was learning more from me than he's ever learned from anyone, and because they haven't had the life experiences that I had, so they can't understand unless you tell them, unless you open up and tell them. And that's what I did. I opened up, was completely honest, and did all the work I'm supposed to do. But I would go to meetings and get frustrated as hell because I didn't think people were doing the work. What I perceived that they thought that the work was to go through the book, get some sponsees, and get them to go through the book. And nothing had to change other than that. That's what kept you sober. And that's not what I bought into. The work I was thinking of was to do all the research and the psychology and all of that. Go to therapy, do all the things that you need to do to fix yourself, not trying to fix other people by sponsoring them.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I would get frustrated. Everyone's quoting the book. I looked at it like they were parrots. So I always used to say, Paul, you want a cracker? Because they come in and repeat all the slogans
Totally.
and repeat all the behaviors. I did all the programs. I did it on NA, ACA,
Wow.
Dharma recovery. I did smart recovery for a little bit.
While you were in AA, you were doing all this other work that AA would call outside work. You had therapists, you were reading books, you were doing other programs, other 12-step, other non-12-step sobriety paths. So you weren't fully in AA. You saw that, oh, I don't believe it's a disease. So some of the ideology you were clear on. It sounds like you were, as much as one can be, a critical thinker while still getting benefits of AA. So some of the ideology I'm sure you were benefiting from, but it sounds almost like you were, I would call it even like the mind fuck of AA, where you see that it's not all really true, but you're still getting benefits from it. Would you say that that's accurate? That you
Yeah,
were a critical thinker in AA?
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big part of it is having critical thinking skills. And I was doing that in all areas of my life because I felt that I needed to. I kept, I back east, I kept myself pretty numb for a lot of years, and I didn't do the work that I should have been doing. When I got out here, I began to do the work, and I did it in everything. I grew up a Catholic, and I ended up questioning all those beliefs as well. At this point, I think I'm more of a humanist and a Buddhist than a Catholic. A lot of things went on in the Catholic Church that we probably don't have to bring up, but a lot of the guys were my friends, and so it just pissed me off. I just couldn't be a part of that, and I'm still losing friends over it. But I feel that I should be allowed to have my beliefs and my perspective on things. Another issue is a lot of people say I'm too sensitive. Well, to me, that's just super manipulative. They're trying to invalidate my thoughts and feelings and all of that. And my thoughts and my feelings are valid, and, and I believe that.
We have a sensory system.
Yeah,
It's not
and
too
I
sensitive. It's exactly as much as it is. Like, what do you
yeah
mean?
yeah it's valid, and I don't do that to people. I don't tell other people they're too sensitive. I don't manipulate people. I don't. I just don't try to get over on people, and I think those are the behaviors that needs to change in people. Is the gaslighting and the manipulative behaviors and all that, and actually do the work. And the reason I stopped going was because I was working at Clubhouse we used to go to, and there was one guy that used to come in all the time, and he was coming in helping out, but he was also sick a lot of times. So he would be hacking and coughing and sneezing on things, and and then I'd get sick, and it was right before COVID, and I ended up asking him to leave. I says, "You got to go. You can't come. If you're sick, stay home. Don't bring it here." And then I heard like rumors of COVID. And so I brought that to an Al-Anon meeting, and I was like, this guy's out here sick. Right after that, everything just blew up. I didn't see him coming anymore, but he thought I didn't like him and all that. He accused me of all sorts of stuff. And it wasn't that. It was, I don't like getting sick. I started doing just Zoom meetings. And then from there, I started doing therapy. Everything that was done in AA was me. Nobody got me sober. I got myself sober. And I did
Sure.
all the work that it took to keep myself sober. In therapy, it was all I did was talk. And I wanted to do therapy. I didn't want to talk. So I spent 3 years just talking about my story and stuff. He was a licensed clinical social worker, and I didn't think he was all that qualified. I can talk in meetings. I can talk all day long. I don't need to go to a therapist to just ruminate on my past.
Yeah.
So this new therapist, I've been doing IFS, internal family systems, and last week we talked about doing EMDR because I have PTSD and trauma. Um, so we've been doing art therapy because I'm an artist. So she always gives me a little assignment to draw different things. I think
Aw-
next week is
awesome.
the roots, a tree with roots going in the ground, and the roots of life or something like that. I can't
Nice.
remember.
So
But
what
yeah,
was it for you leaving AA? Was it like a moment? Like for me, it was like a flash, and all of a sudden I realized it wasn't true, and I popped out of the brainwashing, and then I started deprogramming. For you, was it gradual? Was it a quick moment? Like help us understand what the decision process or leaving AA awakening was like.
it was a gradual progress for me. I've been going to AA since 1985, but I never really participated until I got to San Francisco. So in reality, it was 15 years that I've been in, or 10, because I've been out for about 5 years. I guess my thoughts on it, I'd rather be alone and away from the program than be in bad company. And have some bad experiences with different people at that clubhouse, working for people that have great shares and stuff like that. But outside of the program, it's a different story. They're different people, but that's not something you can talk about in a meeting. You can't throw someone under the bus like that in a meeting.
I think we all can probably relate to that.
But it leaves me internalizing it all, and that's what I did most of my life. I internalized all my feelings, all my emotions. I just didn't feel that I could have emotions or feelings. So every time I tried to get sober, the emotions and feelings would come up, and I'd have to suppress them and put it all down, numb myself out. And so this time, I decided that my emotions are fine. I'm happy we had to have the emotions and have the feelings, and other people got to deal with it if they don't like it. That's where I'm at now. I'm also trying to transition into other activities and stuff to make up for the lack of support. And I'm successful with it. I'm doing as well as I think I can.
You're always on an adventure. From at least what I see, it does look like you have a lot of interests, and there must be community in some of that. And
yeah, there is. It's a lot of stuff. I like to learn new things, so I just dive in and try to learn. And I can do a lot of things, but I may not be the best at everything, but I'm interested in learning and trying anyway.
I love that growth mindset. So when you officially left AA and you're no longer in it, what was the initial struggles, if you had any? I had a lot of struggles initially, like when I left AA. I'm curious to hear what kind of things were you facing when you were like, okay, I'm not going to meetings anymore. What type of experience was it that you were having with that?
It's always a struggle. I think it's always going to be there. Like I'm alone, but I'm not alone. The reason I'm not lonely is because I do a lot of things. I get up and I get out of the house early and go for my walks and do photography and try to learn fly fishing and all
Whale
of that.
watch.
Whale watching, all of
There's
that,
a lot of whales. Who knew?
Yeah, yeah.
And that fly fishing, there's like all the people lined up in a row. It's so cool.
Well, I was down at St. Francis Yacht Club and
Okay.
sitting in my truck. I do that almost every morning. All of a sudden, a group of guys started showing up with fly rods. And I'm watching them and I'm like, geez, I wonder what's going on. And I finally got out of the truck and went over and asked. And it was a group called Project Healing Waters. And it's a group of veterans trying to heal from PTSD. So people are telling me, you're manifesting that stuff. So I introduced myself to a few people and asked how I could get involved. And so I'm now a volunteer for that group. And we've been meeting on Wednesdays and Saturdays. It's just a great group of guys. And we're not talking about PTSD or anything like that. We're just talking about fly fishing and next road trip and all of that. It's nice. I can't even fathom how helpful people are. I show up and guys approach me, tell me what I'm doing wrong and how to fix it. And, it's just a super friendly group.
That's awesome. I love that you found community and hobbies and things to do with your time. It sounds like you've also made a lot of peace with yourself through self-research and through therapy and through different modalities. I know for me, when you mentioned internal family systems, that's my favorite kind of therapy, which isn't relevant for anybody else, but that one really helped me with inner child stuff, like childhood trauma and stuff. So I love that you have a variety of interests, you're a learner, you have growth mindset, that you really do the work and explore everything for your highest good. And I just feel like it's really inspiring. It's that you get out of the house every day, you go on your walks, you take photos, you meet new communities, and then you join them. I think that's really inspiring because I think a lot of us, I know I've gotten a lot of DMs about it. People leave AA and then it's like we don't know what to do socially because our social skills are stunted. A lot of us, because we would just go to rooms and meet people. We'd meet people in the meetings all the time. And so we forget how to connect because we're not connecting with alcohol anymore. We're not connecting with meetings. And so I love that you just were out and about and just started talking to people and started manifesting or creating community for yourself.
I go for the walks every morning down East Beach and I meet so many people and I usually carry the camera with me. So it kind of attracts people. So I meet people from all over the world. I've met people from Australia and New Zealand and just everywhere, all over the world, Italy, and I have good conversations with them over the whale watching the camera. I met a guy last week from the city actually, but he had just bought a new camera, and so we talked half an hour or more on my walk about his camera, and I want to upgrade my camera, so I was interested in the one that he has, and so he gave me a lot of pointers. Just
Yeah.
amazing. And I approach people when I just approach and start a conversation. That's
How do you do it? Can you break it down for us? Because I think some people would like to hear the mechanics of it.
There's a lot of dog walkers down there. I've got thousands of pictures of whales, and I got hundreds of pictures of birds. And so I start taking pictures of dogs, but I strike up conversations with people that have the dogs, and you never know. Now everybody's saying hi to me on the
Mm,
walks because I walk on the beach, and also I see a lot of fishermen, so I stop at everyone that and I ask, how's your luck and what's going on? What are you using? So I just approach people,
I love it.
ask questions. I just do it. I jump in
Yeah.
and just, who cares? You know.
What's been one of the most challenging things or the hardest thing about leaving AA?
The lack of community.
Mm,
Although I still have friends that call me, and I still um, meet people. I don't go to that clubhouse anymore because just I don't want to. For one thing, I don't want to get sick. I don't like getting in there and having people hacking and coughing all over me. So, but I don't have any animosity towards anyone in the program. Although people do have resentments against me. I was sitting down the Marina Green the other day, and one of the guys from that clubhouse was walking by, so I rolled my window down and said, "Hey, how are you?" And the first thing he says is, "Geez, I'm surprised you'd even say hi to me." And I'm like, whatever. And then later on, I'm thinking, what did he do that I would, have some kind of resentments against him? Whether I leave or not, I don't.
right.
I can still be friends with people. I don't have to participate in that group thing.
Right. And it's almost like it would be the other way around, that they might be less likely to say hi to us. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but it's more like the reality of we're out here okay, but when we're in the ideology, there is a bit of culture around if you leave, you're dangerous, you might get the danger on us, I might die, therefore I need to distance from you. But out here, we don't have that. Out
Um,
here, I think more what I have is a feeling of they're going to shun me. I'm going to get shunned, or I'm going to get, which is a very primal DNA thing that we don't want to get kicked out of the tribe. So
yeah.
I more have a fear of like I don't know how they're going to react to me.
Yeah, I get it. Some of those are my fears as well. I don't have a problem with anyone out of that group. I get the feeling that they have a problem with me, but um, I don't give that much credence.
Yeah. And it's not personal either. It has nothing
No,
to do with anybody who leaves. It has everything to do with the ideology. It's not personal.
no. I like that poem by Cassie Phillips. Let them, which is let them show you who they are. And
Yeah.
it really has nothing to do with me.
It's been fun to have you in my Deprogram course. I would love to hear how that went for you, what you thought of it. I know you like some of the meditations. I would love to hear what that experience was like for you.
I really like the whole program, and I love the meditations. You're really good at that. Everything in there was like a validation of the stuff that I've been thinking. Because, like I said, I'm alone here by myself, and I have no idea what other people are thinking. I know what I believe and what I feel, but I don't know what anyone else does. And until I went into your program, I realized that a lot of people are thinking the same thing that I am. I've been thinking it for a lot of years, and trying to convince other people, and this just seemed like a waste of my time. But through you and through the program, I've got a lot of validation. I was looking at it today, going back through it just so I can have something to talk about. And everything is just valid. It's reassuring, and just I really appreciate all that get done.
I'm really glad to hear that. I know when I left, one of the hardest parts of leaving for me was that nobody would validate me, that
Yeah,
I had to validate myself. And coming out of AA systematically erodes our self-trust and our critical thinking if we get into the ideology. So I'm leaving. I don't even realize that I've been outsourcing my power. It makes me really happy to hear because that's my greatest wish is that with the course is that people, yeah, they feel validated. I want us to be able to think critically and trust ourselves, and that's it. That's the freedom that unlocks everything.
yeah. Well, someone, like I said, I used to go to Al-Anon, and a guy came into one of the meetings. I don't know who it was, but he said to me, he says, "Take your power back," and that made a lot of sense to me. I don't think I ever believed that I was powerless because I'm the guy that walked into the meetings. I'm the guy that did the work. People used to ask my sponsor, "What are you doing?" My sponsor said, "I'm not doing anything," because I was the one doing everything. He wasn't. All he would ever say to me was, "Are you sober?" I'd say, "Yeah." He says, "Great." That was it. He never asked me to do anything. He didn't ask me to do the steps. He didn't ask me. He didn't preach anything to me.
Really?
Yeah, he was a great guy. And
Wow.
but I did do the steps with him, and I did go through. And I did it with other people. I had a sponsor in Al-Anon as well, and I went through every page of that book, the traditions and everything. I got a lot out of all of it. But I think at this point I'm trying to transition even further into just a normal life and not
Yeah.
letting go of the past and closing the door and not ruminating. That's been difficult for me to let go of the old stories and create a new life.
Well, the AA culture sets us up for that kind of thinking as well.
Yeah,
I
it
wasn't
does.
like that before. I never did the hardcore self-flagellation, examine my stuff all the time. Like I never was that hard on myself until I went to AA and I was trained to do that. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to let go of. It's a lot to change. I think a lot of the ideology, it doesn't like leave us automatically, but if we're not in the indoctrination, it slowly we can move away from it. But I found that there's also a lot of work to recover our minds.
That's another thing that used to bother me in the programs was the pathologization of all their behaviors and
Yes.
their human behaviors. It felt like they were pathologizing everything, and it's all normal behavior. It's the only thing that was abnormal was the drinking and the drugs. The rest of it's normal. Your emotions and your feelings and thoughts and everything. It's all normal. My dad never drank in his life, never smoked, never did any of that. He had all the same behaviors. You know how you say the apple didn't fall far from the tree? Well, one of my woman friends said the apple didn't even fall off the tree. I was pretty much like my dad, other than the drinking. Neither one of my parents drank. All my siblings did, but no one else did.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's so much pathologized. And the way that I look at it now is labels are helpful as guides, not cages. How is your overall view now that you're about 5 years out of AA?
I've actually gone to a few Zoom meetings in the past few years, and I just can't deal with it. With the whole disease thing and all of that, it bothers me. And I start thinking about it, and I don't want to go down that road. It's difficult to go
Yeah.
back. Although, if I had a friend that came out recently and visited, and he was struggling with some addiction issues. And I tried to point him in the right direction, but he's not interested in recovery. He's just looking for medication, basically. I'm willing to help him. I'm not chasing people down, I'm looking to help people. But I would point people towards the programs so that I don't want to rob them of the opportunity to figure out all the things that I figured out.
You
As much,
said point people towards the programs. Do you mean
um,
specifically AA or do you mean
yeah, I
smart?
would go AA and or Smart Recover, whichever one that they want to do, a Dharma Recover, whatever they want. I still would point people into whatever program they of their choice. If they have addiction issues um, with alcohol, I'd point them towards AA. If it was heroin or cocaine, I'd point them towards NA.
So you would recommend for people to go to AA if they had a drinking problem. Would you also recommend that they either think critically or warn them about deprogramming after, or would you just tell them to, like, how do you feel about that?
I tell people to think critically. I tell people, even if I was to go to a meeting, I would speak up and say all of that. And that was one of the issues because I was saying all that at that clubhouse. Um, and I was bringing in outside literature. I was bringing the books into the meetings. So,
Wow. So you're like a promoter of like safer AA basically, which is AA with an open mind, not AA locked into an ideology. Is that the vibe I'm catching?
yeah,
Okay.
non-dogmatic.
I
Um,
love that. I totally
yeah,
love that.
yeah, just open-minded, whatever you need to do.
Is there anything else that you would want to tell somebody who just left Alcoholics Anonymous and is dealing with the fear, like thinking they might die if they leave, it's not safe, or their emotions are all over the place, or that they're angry about what happened to them? What really helped you, I guess, find peace or find yourself after leaving?
I just hold it all loosely. Don't hang on to it all. Let it go, move on. The fears are there. I know I'm not going to die. I know I'm not going to pick up again. I have no desire to do that. My life is too good without alcohol and drugs. And I spent a lot of years drinking and drugging. I don't need to go back to that. You know, I'm strong enough that there's no temptation for me. You mentioned it being a real alcoholic or something. I am so happy that I'm not a real alcoholic and that, I can just take it off and move. Another thing you said that I really liked was if you break your leg, you get a cast put on and all that. You don't keep that cast on the rest of your life. You take the cast off, you learn to walk again, and you heal up, move on. And that's
Yeah.
basically
Recovery
how
is
it is.
always temporary.
I actually went in the clubhouse and told them that I was recovered. And I also would go to meetings and tell them that I don't identify as an alcoholic anymore. So I don't raise my hand and say, "Hi, I'm Bob, I'm an alcoholic." I just don't do that because I'm so much more than that. I have so much more going on in my life than that small little portion of my life. I told this particular person that I was recovered, and she said, but are you cured?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not cured." But recently, I realized, yeah, I am cured because I'm not going back to that lifestyle. They couldn't get me to go back to that. There was a lot of other stuff that went on in the meetings that I just didn't like. You talk about 13th step and stuff. I had a lot of women coming on to me, and I had one woman that just loved bombing like you would not believe. And I was sharing it all with my sponsors. I was telling him what the next step was because I thought she was a narcissist. And so she was coming on. So I would say, next step, she's going to devaluate me. Next step, she's going to discard me. And all of it came true. And I didn't take the bait, but it was super tempting. It was like, I never had anyone hug me the way she hugged me. I never had anyone come on to me like that. Um, it was just, I don't know. So it's not gender specific,
The
you
13th
know.
step.
Yeah, women do it to guys and guys do it to women. It's just a part of life, basically. So that's my take on the 13th step.
Do you think of yourself as like in recovery now?
No,
Or no? Okay.
no,
So you're recovered from alcohol use disorder or whatever, and now you're just somebody who's living life while you're also healing from life's various things, but you don't think of recovery as a forever thing. Is that right?
no. I'm recovered and I think I'm cured of addiction issues. I'm recovered.
You're recovered. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been so fun to have you here. Do you have anything you want to say to the listeners or the viewers before we close out?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on the program. It's felt good. I had a lot of anxiety about it, whether I should say anything. Like that's part of the dogma is whether I should keep my mouth shut and that's one of the things that has been a lifelong thing too, is even in my own family, wasn't encouraged to speak up. And if I spoke up, there was a lot of drama around it. So I learned at a young age to keep my mouth shut and internalize everything and just man up, basically. And that's not how I want to be. I held it all in 40 years. Eventually it comes out. It has to. So, but I still get in positions where people try to silence me and keep me, and I react totally. I speak up even louder when people do that, because I feel that my thoughts and beliefs are valid. It's something I have to do.
The greatest thing is self-trust and critical thinking. That's how I think about it now. Now that I've left
Yeah.
AA and saw what was taken from me when I went into that ideology as far as self-trust and critical thinking. And now that I have it back and I'm getting it back even more, well, I think the critical thinking is back. I almost have like a PTSD about ideologies now where I'm like, don't tell me one way is not the way. Ah! I'm like allergic to
Yeah,
like this is it. I'm like, I don't
yeah,
get stop. I have to calm myself down because I do get a little
yeah,
and that is like a PTSD from being locked into a dogma for so long that I realize now is baloney. I'm like, I don't put
yeah,
anything on me. Let me think it through.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm hyper vigilant about all of that, and also I'm a contrarian. I don't agree with anything until I do the research, until I figure out what I believe. I don't just go along with people. And I'm a pretty deep thinker, so I almost overthink everything. And people accuse me of that, of overthinking. And that's a trauma response as well, overthinking. But I don't see a problem with it. It works for me. It helps me. So,
Yeah. Well,
so,
if somebody thinks you're overthinking or too sensitive, that's just their opinion, man.
yeah,
Dude, that's just your opinion, man. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
maybe I'm thinking exactly how much I'm supposed to for myself.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe
I
I can be
agree.
how I am.
Yeah, I agree. I can be me.
I love it. What a celebration. To me, that's it. And I feel so in my heart right now too, because that's so powerful.
Yeah, me too. So,
I love that. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the Sobriety Bestie podcast today. I hope you liked this episode, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.